Welcome back to another episode of Chelsea Chat. We've got Jamie Bunce here, a resident Chelsea expert, and myself, Dan Welch, bringing just a little bit of neutrality to this podcast. Today we're going to discuss a few things. We've got the Chelsea Krasnodar Champions League game from midweek. We've got the Everton Chelsea game, which has just happened. We're looking ahead to Chelsea versus Wolves and who Chelsea could potentially play in the Champions League. So before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and hit the bell notification to be notified of any future uploads we do have so you can get involved straight away. Right, Jamie, let's get started.
Chelsea, 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 Chelsea.
So, Chelsea Krasnodar, 1-1. How was the game for you?
It was a bit null. It was a bit kind of nothingness. I mean, it was a dead rubber. We'd already topped the group. That I think they'd already qualified for the Europa League. So they're going to be slipping into the Europa League. It was a bit of a lethargic performance. No one really took the ball by the horns. It was nice to see Gilmour get 90 minutes kind of on his way back to fitness. It was nice to see Tino Anjorin coming in as well, another youngster that Lampard seems to be bringing through. I think, whilst it was very good to see them coming in, I think they were a little bit let down by some of the senior players who just didn't seem to be bothered about this game because it didn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
It was a shame because obviously we had fans back in the stadium for that game as well. And they didn't really get a great performance. It wasn't horrendous, it wasn't awful, but it was just one of those where we didn't really turn up. And we went 1-0 down. Very well played goal by Krasnodar. They seem to be a pretty good footballing team technically. And then we got a penalty not long after and equalised, and that was kind of it. There wasn't really much to talk about in that game. It was so kind of
so on paper, obviously, you'd look at that game and think, oh yeah, Chelsea should be winning that game at home. Obviously, there was nothing really much to play for, and kind of a slightly changed team. Any positives of anyone that doesn't get to play much that you thought on that game, or?
So I think, as I said, Anjorin came in, had a really good performance. He looked very good. There wasn't really much. I mean, Kepa played. He doesn't usually get a game, but he didn't really have a lot to do in terms of saves. He didn't have a lot of saves to make. But they're like the amount of talking points from that game was so small because it was very lethargic from us. They didn't really quite have the quality to capitalise on that. It was very, very sloppy. I think Anjorin and Gilmour were good. Gilmour, again, man of the match performance in his Champions League debut. I think that now makes it his Premier League debut, his FA Cup debut, and his Champions League debut. He's got man of the match for all three of those games. So it shows just what we're going to expect from him long term.
Let's hope he can stay fit.
Definitely a highlight.
No further injuries.
No,
that's totally fair. And then obviously, anyways, at the end of the day, Chelsea's qualified. So, looking forward to the next round, which we'll touch on a little bit later. We're still looking back. We'll look forward a little bit in a bit. But before we move on to Everton Chelsea, Jamie, can you tell me a little bit more about your Chelsea shirt today?
This is the last season's third kit.
Yeah.
It's this was one of my favourites. It's been we every now and then we'll have a really, really good kit. And this is definitely one of them. So I can pass up on this one. I think it would have been the best kit last season if we didn't have the anniversary shirt that we had for that one FA Cup game, which I would love to have just been our home kit forever. But this.
If anyone doesn't know Jamie that well, he can't wear a shirt beyond last season anymore because none of them fit him anymore because he's lost so much weight. So
this one just about isn't too baggy for once.
Good. No, it's a nice shirt, that one. So I totally agree. I'm loving that one. Let's get on with it, Jamie. Everton Chelsea. Ahead of the game, opportunity to go first in the Premier League. A couple of strong results. Everton haven't had strong results. You know, they've been kind of lacking those performances, been desperate for a win. But ultimately, regardless of all that, Everton was always going to be a tough opponent. You know, in a few words, give me your thoughts, kind of having a few hours to dwell on the game.
Yeah, I think there was a mixture of things about it. So firstly, I think the lethargic performance from Wednesday or Tuesday, I can't remember what day we played, but from the Champions League game seemed to kind of fill through into this game, which is, you're always in danger of that kind of thing happening when you have a dead rubber game like that. But they didn't seem to step up a big amount like they should have done. It was a little bit kind of one-dimensional. All of our attacks seemed to be geared in the same way, but didn't really work because of how Everton was set up. It just, we didn't look great. It wasn't our worst performance. You know, I've seen us play a hell of a lot worse than that, but it was back to almost the kind of performances last season when teams would just sit deep and defend against us and we couldn't find a way through. I think the injuries we've got kind of played a big part of that, because we didn't really have, even off the bench, we didn't really have much in terms of a creative spark to come in and to help us out. Like, you know, Ziyech is out, Hudson-Odoi is out.
No one that comfortable on the ball, right? He didn't have anyone to be that spark, as you say.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, we had to push, Havertz had to play on the wing, which firstly is not his best position, but secondly, he's really not in great form at the moment. He seems to be struggling to adapt for the time being. So that didn't really help, and especially because he was on the right-hand side. Reece James wasn't really able to create as he usually would, bombing up that right-hand side. Some of the passes that Havertz were giving into James kind of just set us back a couple of movements, and it just didn't seem to help James. So, I mean, Reece James is probably man of the match. But
this is the funny thing, right? He was at least the brighter spark, but maybe it kind of wasn't quite what you needed in that game.
Yeah, and I think the other big talking point from that game really would be the fact that the game kind of went exactly how it needed to for Everton in terms of, you know, they got an early goal, and then, I mean, they had 4 centre-backs in defence. You know, they
set up for strong defence, right? Which is what exactly they did. And well, I think, as you say, got the early goal and were able to defend.
Yeah, the fact that they had both their full-backs out injured kind of meant that they were forced to play 4 centre-backs, but it also meant that once they went 1-0 up, they could just sit back and they didn't have to worry about their fullbacks like bombing up the pitch and trying to help in attack. They just sat there and defended. And also, you know, we've got Olivier Giroud playing up front. He's, you know, that big aerial presence. But when he's got 4 centre-halves around him, he's not going to be winning those balls. And then when the ball drops after that, it always found an Everton player. It never fell to a Chelsea player. We didn't have someone coming onto it like the old Lampard style would have done, you know. It didn't kind of work that way. And it was just a frustrating game. As I said, we didn't play badly. We created chances. We had, you know, we hit the post twice, but it just didn't fall away. It's one of those where you can just kind of write it off as it wasn't our day. It was a shame because, as you said, at the start, we could have gone top of the win. And now we're looking at potentially being, you know, like 5 points adrift of Liverpool and Tottenham, who play against each other midweek.
Yeah, exactly. This was, I mean, in some sense that's a blessing, but in other sense it was your opportunity to make up that ground.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't your day. If you want to win the league, you have to be winning when it's not your day. So obviously you can make that argument, but I think, like, kind of what you're saying, I don't think we can read too much into it. Just an off day, and hopefully, you know, Chelsea can show their character by switching that back on again. So obviously a couple of things that happened in the match, kind of Mendy's mistake for the penalty, uncharacteristic. I know it had just been on the floor a couple of minutes beforehand, so whether we can blame that for the error. But, you know, he's not shown any signs to worry, so I'm not sitting there thinking we need to start talking in detail about kind of Mendy going off the rails. But hopefully, I think maybe if we think about it in this sense, he can pick his confidence up and doesn't blame himself too much for that mistake. Any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's one of those mistakes that goalkeepers tend to make when they get a bit complacent. I think he probably was just, you know, feeling that confidence maybe a bit too much and felt a little bit invincible.
Yeah,
and I think he come out thinking, oh, I'm king here. I'm going to go get this ball, and he just misjudged it. And it's one of those things. I think you could see most goalkeepers doing that at some point. It was a frustrating mistake because it was, as I said, fairly early on, and it probably, it definitely cost us the game in the end. But we had plenty of time to repair that later on, and we just couldn't get it done. So,
and I guess the game could have gone any other way, right? Hitting the woodwork a couple of times. Any one of those could have gone in, and it would have been a completely different story. So. I think we shouldn't kick ourselves too much for that. Yes, the Chelsea performance lacked the spark, but there's one other thing which, when I was just kind of looking at kind of responses to the match, I don't know if you saw Lampard say this. He said, "It is a long season. These people talking about us winning the league with the best squad, it is ridiculous. You have to look at the teams winning it the last 3 or 4 years. They have wingers, strikers scoring 30 or 40 goals. They are the squads who have won the leagues and Champions Leagues. We are clearly not that." I mean, I might just be reading into this too much, but I'm keen for your thoughts. Is he taking a jibe at the likes of, Werner's not there yet? Obviously, Giroud's been playing some well, but even the wingers, although he's brought in those players, he doesn't think he's got someone in his squad that can do that. Is that how you read that statement?
I think he's managing expectations. I think, even like me and Max, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, thinking, we're going to win the league this year. I think this season kind of reminds me of the first season when Jose came back the second time. So, we were in a title race up until the last couple of weeks, and I think we lost at home to Sunderland, which kind of sealed our fate that we weren't going to win the league. But I feel like we're kind of in a similar stage. But the thing is, most of our players, we have such young players. They don't have the long experience like the Liverpool team do or the Man City team do. They're very experienced heads in there, and we don't really have that other than Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta. I mean, Thiago Silva's is his first year in the Premier League, so you can't expect too much. And I think this isn't the year that we looking at winning the title. I think the way things have fallen have put us in a title race-ish. We're on the kind of periphery of a title race. But I think, next season is the season that we would be looking to say, okay, with this team, we should be looking at challenging for a title. This season, I think, I said this at the beginning, I'd be happy if we were there or thereabouts, come like April, May time. So it's not going to be a disappointing season if we don't win the league this year. So I think Lampard is just trying to set everyone's expectations and say, look, this isn't what it's not a failure of a season if we don't win the league this year. This is still a development year. And I think he just is trying to stop people getting a bit too carried away, because we have been over the last few weeks, every podcast has been positive. Every performance has been good. This was always going to come, this kind of blip in the road. And it's just about how the players react to that. And Wolves is a very, very tough game in midweek. So he just needs to get the players focused purely on Wolves, not thinking about, oh no, we've slipped up, so we've lost the title, so heads are down. He needs to focus the players on each game at a time. And that's what he's trying to do with that statement, I think.
I think that's totally fair. Okay. And I think that's perfect time to move on to Wolves. Chelsea haven't got much time to rest on their laurels or rest on kind of dwelling on that match, because Wolves, who are an extremely tough opponent, are coming up midweek Tuesday, 6:00 for those that aren't aware. So last season, beat them twice, 2-0 and 5-2 away. Just looking at a couple of stats here, Jamie. 17 goals for Chelsea in the times they've played each other, and 5 goals for Wolves. Chelsea won 67% of those times they've met, but that's just stats on a piece of paper.
It's a very different Wolves side now.
Sorry?
It's a very different Wolves side now to what they were previously.
Exactly. Even though, last season you did do the double on them, but what do Chelsea need to change in this match? Being cognizant some of those players, the spark wingers might not be back yet in order to win it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because we did create some chances. It was just a case of we didn't finish them. I think I can't wait for Werner to just break through and do what he's kind of
And do you think
threatening
that's going to
to
come?
do.
Or does something need
Yeah,
to change in this Chelsea squad? Does it need more support? Does it need to be more in the right position?
I think for him, he's just not been clinical enough in front of goal. He's had so many chances where he's just fluffed his lines, and it's one of those where once he gets that big haul of goals in one game, he'll get a hat trick at some point, and that will just turn the switch, and he'll be banging in goals for fun. And I think that's going to be really important for us. That's going to be so vital, and it's just about when that's going to happen. The sooner the better, obviously, but. I'm just waiting for it to happen because it will. He's too good of a player for it to not happen. So it's so key for that to happen. And I think also
and that's what I think Lampard was trying to say in that statement.
I
know he's trying to take the pressure off, but I do think he's trying to ignite fire in some of those players to say, guys, you need to step up.
Yeah, because I mean that yesterday, it wasn't a performance of title contenders. It was a performance of a team similar to last season that no one expected much of, and we shouldn't be at that level. We should be a step above what we was last season. Yeah. And I know we had a lot of injuries, but we still have. I mean, for sure, we've got a better defense than we had last season. Yeah. And the attacking options are, at this point last year, Giroud hadn't. I don't think he'd even played a minute. So he's firing, he's doing well. Tammy's been doing well when he comes in. So we've got the players there to do it. It's just a case of getting the best out of them at the right time, and it's difficult to call. I think.
What do you think the score's going to be, mate?
I was very, very confident before this weekend, but after the performance, after the fact that I saw that Pulisic was out again. Oh God, it's difficult.
Under 2.5 goals scored in Wolves' last 5 home games in the Premier League.
That's the thing. I mean, recently, Wolves have changed their defence. They've been playing 4 at the back rather than 5 that they usually do. Jimenez is out injured. Moutinho got sent off the other day. Everything says that we should beat them, but this is Chelsea during a Christmas period where we always struggle. I still think we should win this game. I think there will be some changes. I think Abraham will probably start. You might see some rotation a bit in midfield. Probably not much rotation on the wings because we have only got 2 options for people to play on the wings at the moment. So I think you might see maybe someone like Thiago Silva rested. So I think it'll be a mixed up team a little bit, but I still think we should get a victory.
Their form isn't great. So at the end of the day, I'm going similar to last season, 2-0 Chelsea. What do you think?
Yeah.
Give me a result. Come on. I know you've been a politician. Give me a scoreline.
I'm going to say 2-1. 2-1 Chelsea.
2-1. Okay. Yeah.
A safe one. If you're unsure, always go for 2-1.
Just the standard. Give them something.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about Havertz. Big money move. What if you're in Lampard's shoes? What do you do? Do you obviously? I don't think resting him is the right thing to do because he needs to get his confidence. Is it a case of waiting? You're wanting those wingers to come back, but in some sense, he should be the spark on the ball. He should be the one that's comfortable on the ball. He should be the one that's kind of being that magic. But I don't know whether he's there yet, or is it just a case of Werner waiting?
I said this to Max. I think it's a case of a few things. He needs to, he's having to adapt to the league, but he's also having to adapt to the way we want him to play in our system. I mean, he came from a Leverkusen team where he was the center of everything. They built the team around him and his capabilities, but in this team, he needs to bring his capabilities and utilize that within what we've got already in place.
Should he come here and expect the same treatment? You've brought in hundreds
I don't think
players, and they're performing better than him.
Yeah, I don't think he expects it. I think he's just adapting and he's trying to get used to it. Different people adapt to situations differently, and it takes some people longer, not everyone comes into the Premier League and bangs straight away.
I know you're trying to be nice and not put pressure on the bloke, but at some point he's got to start performing. Otherwise,
he's not been good enough. But the thing is, I genuinely think that if we take him out of the team because of the bad performances, then it's just going to take even longer for him to adapt. I think he needs those games. I think the problem is when the rest of our team are not performing, then it just highlights how bad he's been. Whereas usually the other players can kind of pick up the slack a little bit and it doesn't make him look so bad, which will help him build in confidence. And he's going to get there. I've got no doubts that, he's going to be one of the best players in the league in a few years' time, but it's just about how long it's going to take for him to make that transition. And if it takes too long, it might knock his confidence so much that it hampers his development. Yeah. So Lampard's just got to learn how to balance that. And some games he should maybe be taken out, given a rest, or, given a week away from just to think and to observe the game and watch it and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he's still learning really that number 8 position, which is where he should be playing long term. He's come from being the main number 10 or a false 9. He's still learning what we need him to do, as well as learning the league. So I think he needs the game time, he needs the minutes, but not at the cost of the team. So it's a balancing act for Lampard he's going to have to figure out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So ultimately, we're both agreeing that, you're Max, we're back here next weekend, and looking back on a positive Chelsea result at the Wolves game. It'll be a tight game. I think both of us can kind of agree with that one, but ultimately looking for Chelsea to bounce back, and I'm hoping Werner will get a goal and begin that streak again, and get a bit more confidence. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so you've got some details on the Champions League draw that you'd like to share.
So I was looking through on the old internets the other day, and they someone came up with a probability table for who we could be playing in the next round. So obviously, as a draw, you'd think, it's perfectly even. Anyone can get anyone, but because everyone can't play everyone, and you've got the restrictions of you can't play someone from your own country and you can't play someone from your own group, it means that actually there isn't a fair balance of who can play who. So I was just looking at the probabilities of who Chelsea can actually play in the next round. So the most likely team for us to play is Borussia Mönchengladbach. So as our German expert, have you got much to tell us about them as a team, Dan?
I've been hearing, they're here and there kind of for a few seasons now. But if you look down the line of who Chelsea would prefer to draw, I would take it as a confident guess. It's probably one of the teams that would like Chelsea to play against. We did talk a little bit before the podcast about between Borussia Mönchengladbach and Leipzig, and I know that Werner used to play for Leipzig, so he'd probably be fired up for that game. But for me, Leipzig would make me more nervous than Mönchengladbach. So you don't know what team you're going to get there. They can come out and just surprise Chelsea in any which way, and I would be confident that it will be a close game against Mönchengladbach. They like to play, but Chelsea would confidently win that game, or both games, shall we say.
So we definitely hope for Gladbach over Leipzig, who are
Leipzig are absolutely firing on all cylinders, really. Obviously they're hated in the German league for a number of reasons. Werner his stocks went down when he joined, but because obviously they're
Red Bull,
not even a proper team considered. But we cannot deny that, whether it's the Man City of Germany, I don't know what you want to call them, but they're a very strong team, and they do play some very good football. And I think they're quite tactical, so I think they would go at Chelsea in the way that Chelsea would not want to be, in terms of kind of go against their style of play. I think Mönchengladbach would just, Anyways, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think I'd prefer to play Gladbach. I know Leipzig are a good side. Obviously, seeing them last season, Champions League, had a really good run. I think Nagelsmann is a brilliant coach, potentially a future Germany manager. You never know.
Yeah. We ever get rid of current ones?
Yeah. Looking at the other possibilities we've got, I think the next two most likely that we have is Atletico and Barcelona. So two very different kinds of
you know what? It's really interesting, right? That's a really hard one, isn't it? Because obviously, naturally, maybe even not, but maybe you'd say, "Oh, don't play Barca," right? Even though Atletico is in no way an easy game. Choose between Atletico and Barcelona. Yes, Atletico. You'd normally choose Atletico, even though you know they're a very hard team to play. And actually, maybe some people would say not. But I'm thinking about Barcelona. Not playing as well, not as strong this season. You know there's a lot of politics around that club. There's an opportunity to win there, but not just an opportunity to win. What a boost of confidence that could be for the players. You get through Barcelona. How could that spell for future success throughout the season? That's what I'm thinking, even though it's a scary draw. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Barcelona, whilst everyone kind of looks at them after their absolute destroying of from Bayern Munich last season.
Yeah,
not everyone is Bayern Munich, and I think they're still a very strong side, very difficult to beat, and they've still got that little guy in there that can do serious damage to anyone. I think,
little guy.
Yeah, I think Atletico are a very different proposition. Defensively, they are solid, very difficult to score against. I do think we'd struggle more against Atletico than we would against Barcelona, but I still think we'd struggle against both. I'm not saying we'd lose both, but I certainly think it would be two very difficult games, no matter which one of those two it is. And
Barcelona 9th in the league, mate. Atletico first.
Yeah, I do think Atleti would be the harder out of the two, but I don't think Barcelona would be a walkover by any stretch of the imagination. I'd rather draw Barcelona than Atleti at this point in time, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
But I'd hope to avoid them both, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Barcelona are shocking, aren't they? Jeez. Sorry, we continue. Who's next?
So we've got there's three other teams that we can draw, which is
Porto.
We've got Lazio, Atalanta, and then Porto. So Porto, the least likely for us to get, because I think the only team they can't play is City, because they're in the groups. There's no other Portuguese teams in the later rounds, so they've kind of got a fairly even chance of facing most teams. But I think any of those three would be seen as a good draw. I know Atalanta were quite good against Liverpool. But you'd still fancy the Chelsea to do a job on any of those teams. I think as a whole, looking at that entire options that we've got, I think if we can avoid the two Spanish teams and avoid Leipzig, then I'd fancy us to comfortably qualify through that next round.
Yeah, I would agree. So Atlanta are 9th in the league in Serie A. I know Champions League is a different prospect, but it's just trying to see where we base things off. Lazio are 8th. However, Atlanta have only played 9 games. Lazio 11. So, but there are, my maths is correct, 3 points behind. So, one of those 2 games in hand, Atlanta could switch things around. But so I think they're kind of a similar prospect. I know from just kind of watching the betting markets a bit, Atlanta are a good team to bet on for a kind of unexpected victory. Sometimes they can come in. That's what I know. And then, I think, I totally agree. I think Mönchengladbach, we want Chelsea to draw. Just looking at the table here, Mönchengladbach are 8th, Leipzig are 2nd, and actually they're on the same points as Bayern Munich. So they are a difficult prospect, mate. I would much prefer. I'd probably put Leipzig just below getting Barca or Atletico at this rate.
Yeah,
and I'd even be more scared because I think they're just an unknown prospect.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They're definitely in there as one of the 3 that we don't want to get. The rest, I think, we could expect to win.
Yeah.
I think the other 3 we could win if we're at our best, but you don't want to chance it.
No,
ideally won't draw one of those.
No, but then again, like I said, Chelsea need a confidence boost. So I think there's positives to be drawn, whatever the result is. But I'm going to say you will draw Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, God, that's the worst one. Not for me. That is the worst.
Though, Chelsea have this history of drawing Barcelona. It just you never get an easy ride. So.
Just 1 year, it would be nice for us to get this, because I think it's been 4 or 5 years or 4 or 5 times in the competition that we've not made it past this next round, the round of 16. So it would be really nice for us to just get a Gladbach or a Porto or a Lazio, just to let us make it through one more. And then if we can get through that round, then I think that will bring the confidence no matter who we beat. And the players will be, feeling good about it. Yeah. And then you're looking at quarterfinals and semi-finals, and it would be, even if we got knocked out of the quarters or the semis, I think it would still be deemed successful.
I agree.
Campaign.
I agree.
As
it's a step forward, right? Which is what you need. Getting knocked out of 16 is
staying as we was, basically.
Exactly. So again, you've been a politician. Give me your prediction guess. I know it's literally can be anything. It's not really a prediction. So who do you think? Not who do you want? Who do you think you're going to draw?
I agree. I think it would be Atletico. Yeah. It's just how it goes for us.
Gritted teeth. Jamie says that.
God.
If you don't know, Jamie does this when he's a little bit anxious. Okay. There's lots of exciting stuff to come ahead. Chelsea are going to bounce back. Look, whether they're title contenders or not, it's to be seen. I don't think it's fair to say, they're not going to be able to contend or push for the title. I still think it's kind of open. I don't think anyone's amazing this year. We'll see what happens in the Wolves game, but I'm confident, and I think Jamie is as well, that things will start turning around, and it's just a waiting for those players to start gelling, and hopefully they can stay fit and come back in the new year and just smash it out of the park. And then obviously as those supporters start coming in and kind of pushing Chelsea to do even better, even more, and let's just hope that the Champions League is kind to from West London. So yeah. Anyways,
so.
that was everything for today. Just want to keep saying again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified when we do our review on Chelsea winning 2-0 against Wolves. See you next time.
Cheers, guys.